Jen, welcome to another action-packed episode of the Action Podcast. And today we are going to be talking about the one and only John Wick 4, the conclusion of the John Wick franchise. And that is the only movie we're going to talk about today. So we're going to get right into it. We're also going to talk about our top 5 Keanu Reeves roles as well. So that'll be fun.
Might be similar, but maybe the orders are different.
Yeah, I mean, he's got obviously a great career, and I think depending on your taste in movies, because he's got some genre films, which is very cool. But I know some people will put some of these higher than others. But John Wick 4, I've been looking forward to this. This made my top 10 list of movies I wanted to see. And
me too.
Pete, what were your thoughts on John Wick 4?
It was in many ways a masterpiece for me. I mean, I watched this film and it's incredible. Like I started thinking back, was this movie based on a graphic novel? Was it based on a video game? Like I was trying to think about it, and then I went and researched it, but I don't think it was either. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's an original IP, right?
To my knowledge.
Okay. Yeah. So what they did in this film was they took that style of video games, graphic novels, action films, intense drama. I mean, if you know the characters from all 3 of the other movies and you love them the way that I've loved them, like the manager, I love that guy. The other guy who just, and I'm a horrible person for forgetting his name. The guy that just passed.
Reddick. Louis Reddick. No.
He's amazing.
That's the ESPN guy. Lance Reddick.
Lance Reddick, who is just incredible. Whenever he just talks, you just feel like comfort. Like you have that comfort when he talks. Yeah. They were able to do things in this film. Now, I'll get to the positives and then I'll give it a little bit of a couple of critiques. But there are a couple of sequences that I won't spoil anything at this moment, but there are sequences like in a building where you get a nice overhead view and it's literally watching somebody play a video game out in live real time.
No, that was a cool scene.
That was a great scene because then even the weapons are over the top. And so it's just like, people are like blowing up on fire and it's just like, oh my God, this is amazing. But they changed the point of view, and it's not just John Wick kicking ass. It's like it's literally this other version of him, and you're watching him from on top, which I absolutely loved. There's the stairway sequence, which is literally like he gets to a certain point and then gets knocked back down again, almost like in a video game when you get to the end of a level, but you lose. And you got to go back down to the bottom of the level again, and then you got to keep going again. Yeah. And then maybe you get some help to make yourself this movie was very much a video game for me, but done in a cinematic way. And I know that there are video game properties, even like The Last of Us, which is an incredible series on HBO Max, which I loved. I loved every second of it.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list,
without ever playing the video game. So I have no frame of reference. But this John Wick 4 was the first instance I've ever seen of somebody being able to pull off what would a video game look like if it was cinematic?
Yeah.
Period.
That's great point, Pete. Wow, you're knocking it out of the park today.
Thank you.
You get your Wheaties today.
Dude, I'm on
it. This was definitely
masterpiece. I thought it was long, but I by the end of it, I was like, no, that wasn't long at all. In fact, I want more, right? So I don't know. It's crazy.
So that's literally my only one critique is I think this is a 2 hour and 20-minute film. I don't think it's a 2 hour and 49-minute film. And I think just there's just some of the scenes I'm just like, I don't think we needed that. Like it works and it's fine, but it's like, it could have been tight, like super tight. And then it's like, wow.
Because again, there are bits and pieces you could have certainly trimmed.
For me, it's always like leave the audience wanting more. Like in Endgame, right? Avengers Endgame's a 3 hour film, but at the end you're just like, you're almost just emotionally spent and you almost can't take anymore, right? This film, I think, was excellent on so many levels. I think if you trimmed a little bit back, leaves us wanting more, and then you feel sad that it's over. Like when you really do a great last film, you feel sad that it's over, right? Like Return of the Jedi, you're legitimately sad. You're like, oh my goodness, Star Wars is over. Like, what am I gonna do? Indiana Jones Last Crusade, you had that feeling of like, oh man, it's over. They ride into sunset. Like, man, there's no more
Right.
Indiana Jones. Avengers already mentioned.
Let's just wait 15 years and then they'll come out with another one.
Yeah, well, this was before those times, but
Right.
this film, I think, in a way, did that. Like, I thought they did an amazing job of wrapping up all the storylines. I thought what this franchise has always done is done a good job of combining all this action with legitimate emotion and drama, and like you legitimately care about these characters, all the different ones, and you're seeing all the different layers of them kind of come together in this one. Even like the enemies in this one, you don't know who's an enemy, who's not, and you still can kind of understand where everyone's coming from. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
they just do a good job of building this world and building the systems and the laws to where
Yeah.
there's a respect level.
And that exactly right. I mean, I was about to touch on that right now, is that, because you've learned about who John Wick is, you understood where he came from when he first got introduced to us. It was like this was a guy who was in love, who was very happily married, whose wife
Retired.
got tragic, retired. He was out of the life, lost his wife tragically, got a dog, right? And the dog became his world because it was the last little bit of his wife that was left. And then the story begins, right? And so throughout the last three films, and then now in this fourth film, you're with him all the way. I mean, you were latched on immediately with this character because people can either relate to loss of somebody that you love or a pet, right? Like those are like the two categories. I mean, there's people who are just by themselves all the time, but there's usually one of those two categories. So you've already looped in all of these people into this character, and then you start going through this journey. I will say that the first half of John Wick 4, I got nervous because I really thought it was going to sort of play out as we've sort of seen already with John Wick. Like the action sequences were very similar. His signature move, which I got really tired of him doing, which is, pulling somebody down to the ground and then shooting them. Like he's always doing this move where I'm fighting with somebody, but I'm going to pull him down. It's almost like the one move that your special character in a video game can do,
it's jiu-jitsu, right? I think it's jiu-jitsu.
Right. But that's like his move, and he always does it, right? So I started getting angry.
I think that's the director's influence, by the way, because that's the director is a stunt coordinator, and I
First
believe
time director,
right? Well, which is the first John Wick, yeah.
No, he didn't even do the first John Wick. Chad
yeah, he did the first John Wick, yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking at his IMDb. There's no director credits other than this one.
It's been the same director for all four of them.
He's got no credit. Why would he not have a credit as a director? Oh, there it is.
The original Jad Stelhinsky.
Oh, yeah, he did all four.
David Leitch. Yeah, David Leitch is the one that's uncredited, and he co-wrote it.
Okay, can you edit all this out, by the way? Because I don't want to look like a total novice.
And David Leitch did Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, Atomic Blonde. And he probably what they probably did was like, hey Chad, you're directing this, and then David Leitch, maybe he's a friend, and then he's hey, just can you kind of just make sure this
right
check, because they probably
either way. So halfway through this film, then you start getting into those sequences that I was telling you about, where you really start getting this sense of like this video game world. But you really start to feel halfway through this film, you start to feel that exhaustion and that pain that John Wick is going through. And even like little subtle things in this entire series, not just in number 4, but in this entire series, like if I have a gun in a movie and I'm shooting at you and I shoot 6 times, 99 out of 100 times in that movie, nobody's going to look around for another gun and try to pick up that gun because that's all I have. You know, it's this very much video game world where you have to like keep upping your ammunition. You have to keep,
I actually love that part of it. Yeah.
It's so great because he's like beats somebody up, he shoots somebody in the head, and he goes, okay, and then he goes and picks up another gun. He's like, okay, now I'm ready. He's like, you know, he's just like, so every move in this film is choreographed. It feels like
100%.
Everything has a purpose. Like he doesn't just do things just to do things. And to have this film be this long, this action packed, but then the second half where you really start getting into that video game atmosphere of the fight sequences is absolutely breathtaking. It's like I said, it's a masterpiece. And then the final sequence, which is just like I was always a fan of the blind guy who was sort of the nemesis in this film.
Yeah.
And despite what he did, without spoiling anything, despite what he did in this film, by the time he got to the end of it, there's that respect because they're brothers, right? And so the very whole end sequence, it feels very slow paced. And I think that's done on purpose because it really wants you to feel exactly what's going on in that moment, in that sequence of events. And I thought it was really powerful. I thought it was a powerful, strong ending to this film franchise, if there's not going to be anything in the future. If this is how everything ends in the John Wick universe, I can very easily say I'm satisfied.
Yeah, for
from,
sure.
From start to finish. I didn't expect what they just did in John Wick 4, even this much. I thought it was going to be the same, and they're just going to wrap up some stuff. Yeah. But they really put a lot of thought into this and a lot of effort and a lot of time and money.
It wasn't rushed. Yeah.
What a film. That's why I'm saying it's a masterpiece. The way they closed out this last chapter, this chapter 4, go see it. This is an incredible film.
Yeah. I can't wait. I haven't done it yet, but I can't wait to play the John Wick drinking game. And we should do that. We should do a beginning.
Which is what's the game?
Oh, you gotta take a drink every time he kills somebody.
Oh, dude, you're not gonna last 10 minutes.
You're doing a sip of beer though. You're not doing like a full shot. But yeah, that's the challenge. The John Wick drinking game challenge.
You know, the funny thing about this film was that I think his first 2 lines, which is 10, 15 minutes of screen time, he has 2 lines and they're the same. Yeah. Like those are his first 2 lines in the whole film. And so you're just like, where are we going to go? Like, what are we going to do with this film? And I didn't know anything about it, right? Like, what are they going to do? I didn't get any spoilers, which was fantastic, but that's how they started. You get halfway through, like I talked about, it was this movie was a journey. Just amazing.
Sure. Yeah, fantastic. No, I loved it. I don't really have much to say. I mean, you pretty much took all the screen time, so good job on that.
Thank you.
But no, you had very good coherent thoughts on that. So I don't think there's really much I need to add. I think you nailed it. Like I said, I had one nitpicky thing. I think this could have just been a little tighter. But I agree. At the end of the day, though, it still doesn't distract how good it is, how great this series was. I wasn't even looking forward to seeing the original when it first came out, and someone's like, "Dude, you got to check this out." I didn't see it when it first came out. Someone's like,
"It was a totally different."
What are you talking about? And I watched it, and it was just different. It just felt different than some of these other films in this kind of genre, and it really, really, this is probably the best Hitman type film that I can think of. Off top of I mean, there's Hitman, of course.
I remember seeing it and thinking to myself, this has the potential to be an amazing franchise. And wow, he's attached to another franchise, right? I just thought it was the way it came out and how different it was, and how realistic. I mean, it's over the top, 100%. It's a crazy world, but should you be in that world, it was as realistic as you could
Yeah,
potentially
no,
make it in
I
a
think
film, right?
there's a lot that's realistic about it. I mean,
Sure. But like, but we're hanging out in the Arc de Triomphe, and all these cars are going around in circles, and there's a whole assassin
yeah,
shootout going on. That's not reality. However, in terms of this film, it was perfect, right? I mean, it seemed real the entire time. But you just got this sense that when the first one came out that this was going to be a really great franchise, and even you had hopes that it was going to do what the Matrix couldn't do, right?
yeah,
Like the Matrix came out and changed the game. Like
yeah,
Matrix came out and was like, this is the level now
yeah,
in which you have to kind of approach filmmaking in terms of thought, right? And how are you going to execute on that
yeah.
thought? So the Matrix came out, and he was a part of that trilogy, and then eventually a fourth. Um, but it really didn't quite pan out.
No,
This one has started off strong and ended stronger than I could have ever imagined.
for sure.
I'm such a fan of these four movies. Like I
Well,
love them.
Pete, you got to commit to the audience here. We got to play the John Wick drinking game. We'll do it before and we'll do an after video of it. I think that'll be
I
great.
just I just love these movies.
So, audience,
You're
we'll
my
commit to that.
you're my best friend.
Yeah, we'll commit to
You're my
that. We'll
best
commit to you
friend.
guys. We'll do the John Wick 4 drinking game, and
Live.
we'll air
we'll
that.
do a live we'll do a live streaming of us.
Ah, we should. We'll do that.
What a disaster. What a disaster.
I think Darazi will be into it with us too. He's what I want. We watched John Wick 3 together, so
That's
uh
gonna be a disaster. No driving allowed.
oh no driving. All right, well, Pete, with that, let's get into our top five Keanu Reeves roles. And I'm gonna go first just because I want to hear your rebuttals to mine.
Right.
And so I think mine's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
The order I think is where my drama is, but I think you're gonna have a different list. So I want to get the kind of the mine out of the way. So
Yeah.
my number five is Speed, and
Okay.
I was never hugely into it. Not that I didn't like the film, but I just never got into it. I think I missed it. I don't think I saw it in theaters, but it's a solid film, entertaining. I love the director Rennie Harlan, who also did Cliffhanger, which is amazing.
I don't know. I don't know if that beats out Paul Abdul's Rush Rush music video as
Yeah,
your number five, Keanu Reeves.
that would be a sneaky pick there. That'd be a sneaky one there. My number four, and this isn't my order of love of the movies. This is the roles. So my number four is The Matrix. And it's only because I don't think he was necessarily like he's the only one that could have done the role. I thought he was great in it, but I also don't think like
Um,
he
I've
was
already won this. I've already won
he
this
was
list.
amazing in
But
it. So
keep
I think
going.
he's just better in these other roles. My number
Mm-hmm.
three is like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
That role, like he was born to do, right? Like he, was perfect for this role.
Yep.
My number two is Point Break for the similar situation. I think, he is Johnny Utah. You know what I mean? He's an athlete. He can play the cop. Like he's muscular. And I think he fit, and he went really toe to toe with Patrick Swayze in a good way. And that, they had such a great dynamic, and it was very plausible. And Point Break obviously directed Catherine Bigelow. Great film, the original we're talking about here. And then
Yeah.
my number one, of course, is the movie we're talking about, but it's John Wick. And I do think like this is the difference I think between the Matrix and this film is, and I think maybe it's just his maturity, maybe, but this is everything about who like Keanu Reeves is as a person too. You know what I mean? He has that sentiment, he has the drama, but he's action. He has, so this all the action stuff, he just looked much better than he did in the Matrix, I think, like physically.
Right.
And I think it's because he did the Matrix, you know what I mean? Like, and he did 47 Ronin. Like, I feel like this was the culmination of all of his martial arts training and jiu-jitsu. Like he's put in the work, and I feel like
Right.
it all really came together for him. And along with his acting chops, which has obviously grown tremendously over the years, I really, and even just like the codes and all that stuff. Like if you interview him and you talk with him, he is very code based, and like if you're ever familiar with the pictures, he would always make sure you saw his hand, because like sometimes celebrities take a picture and they put their hands around waist of people. He would always like show the hand, like it was like this very like honorable thing that he would do. So I just feel like this role itself really encompassed not just John Wick, but he was John Wick in a lot of different ways. And so
No,
that's why
yeah.
my number one.
I got that. I always got that same impression as well. That I mean, there's a lot of roles that he's done that have sort of led to this franchise, right?
Yeah.
Constantine would be another one where
Yeah.
he's involved in like heavy action and the needing of reloading weapons and fighting, but that was of course against the supernatural.
Right.
As well as the 47 Ronin, as much as that was a martial arts film, it was very a supernatural martial arts film.
Yeah.
Those are two movies that I loved, with also Speed and also Dracula, but those aren't movies that I feel were his like huge performances.
Right.
But they are worth mentioning. Number 5, Paula Abdul's Rush Rush. I'm just kidding. Number
I wouldn't
number
be mad
5.
at you because he was excellent in that film.
No, he was romantic. He loved
That's a
Paula
great
Abdul.
music video too. I mean,
It is.
that's one of
It's
the
incredible.
yeah, that was one of like the first. I mean, Michael Jackson's Thriller, of course, is the first maybe, but this was like a very cinematic,
All right, that's 5B. 5B
yeah.
for me is
All right.
Paul Abdul's Rush Rush. I put as my number 5 as The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, it was good in that one.
It was, but that's the thing though. He was fine in the movie. I think the movie in general was better than his performance was, but he really had to carry that film. His accent is something to be desired, right? Like it could have
Yeah.
been nuanced a little bit more. But I just loved him in this role. I loved the film itself. I thought it was
Yeah.
really one of the better films that I saw that year. I put number 4 as Bill and Ted's because yes, that's what really kind of gave us our introduction to Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I put it at number 4 because I think in a way it sort of hurt him being that character. It really kind of stereotyped a lot of his voice, even in the future, even at the beginning of John Wick 4, where he's just
I
like,
don't think it was a stereotype. I think that's
yeah,
literally, I mean, I think he did talk a little bit that way because
yeah, like it stuck. It became a meme or a joke
yeah.
or something to kind
I
of
think
put
he literally had
down.
to work on it though. I think a lot of it that's who he was, and then he had to work on it.
I know, but it's like I don't want to make a comparison between Keanu Reeves and Ashton Kutcher. But if you look at both
No,
those
very sim I
characters,
would say very similar in that respect.
they came out with characters that they sort of got attached to in the public eye when actually, in actual fact, they're both out of this world talented and thoughtful and appreciative of life
Yeah.
and who they love and the world, right? Like Ashton Kutcher in Vengeance, even in the most recent one with Reese Witherspoon that I just saw on Netflix,
Yeah.
really, really thoughtful, brilliant performances. And the same thing with Keanu Reeves throughout his career. He got sort of attached and labeled with this, yeah, kind
No, but
of
it wasn't just the attached Pete. Their performances still carried over into it. So again, I think it's part
right.
of the maturity level. They had to work on that because Ashton Kutcher, like if you watched
That 70s show.
Butterfly Effect, if you watch
Oh,
Butterfly Effect, which is his first,
amazing.
no, it is, but he still has his mannerisms that that was just still part of his acting style. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but that was
He had to
still
get
real
rid of
good.
some of these habits,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and so it does carry it. And he by the time he's getting to the ranch and even these newer films, he has lost some of that. He's still part of him because that's who he is, but he's worked on his acting and he's improved as an actor. So that way,
Yeah.
those things go away.
Vengeance.
Keanu Reeves is the same way.
Vengeance was the first movie that I saw of Ashton Kutcher where when I first saw him on screen, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I didn't see an inch of that old
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher. I saw him as who he's supposed to be, like in real life, in a way. You know what I mean? It was incredible. Either way, Devil's Advocate, Bill and Ted's. The next three are the same. Were on your list, but I put Point Break 3, because if you take away the two franchises, that's his best movie because that's like his best role. He's an FBI agent, and it's incredible. Number 2 for me is Matrix, and number 1 is John Wick. You can't get out of this John Wick universe. It's the best thing he's ever done, and I'm glad he did. I've loved everything about this IP. It's one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think what John Wick did for him ultimately is just really elevate him in the history of cinema. Now you're talking about one of the greatest actors of our generation. Again, you have 2 major franchises. You add basically, if you add just my top 5 films, that's amazing. But he's got other films as well, and he is on a Gary Cooper, or I'm trying to think of another kind of old actor that's just been in a lot of stuff. I mean, Gary Cooper, I think, would be a great example. Gary Cooper did a lot of like different genres, and I don't know if he ever won a Best Actor, but Gary Cooper obviously was a great actor back in the day, and I think Keanu Reeves will go down mainly because of this film. I think again it just elevates him. The Matrix, I think, obviously was a great film, but like you're saying, it kind of deteriorated at the end. The 2, 3, and 4 are nowhere near the first one, whereas this series I think was almost the opposite. Just it kind of kept ascending.
See, but the Matrix was clunky in a way, right? They just came out with this first film
it was never supposed to be a trilogy.
Amazing. And then they were like, how do we just keep this going? And then the 4th one came out, and you're like, well, how do we wrap this up? Let's try it.
Yeah.
John Wick plays out very much so like I can watch the first one, then the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Each film elevates and gets better. It adds to the mystique and the legacy of this character. And then this last film really just ties it up in a beautiful bow. Like, that's why I called it a masterpiece at the beginning, because it's not just a last movie in a series and they just do some stuff and that's the movie. There was so much effort and thought, and they cared from the moment they started this IP to the time that they ended it. You can tell just by the way it plays out. They thought about everything. Even Star Wars, I can make the argument that at one point somebody was like, I mean, what do we do at this point? Let's just, I don't know, Jar Jar Binks, let's put him in there. Let's do some weird shit, right? John Wick, I feel like this is like a set of 4 films that somebody was like, I know exactly what I want from day one to the last day. And here's how it's going to play out. Oh, we got Keanu Reeves? Done. Like, it's done. This is 100% slam dunk.
Yeah.
I love this franchise. This might be one of my favorite ever.
I think that if you go each film, like I can make that argument, because again, like you look at Indiana Jones, right? Like Indiana Jones, unfortunately you have the Kingdom of Crystal Skull, right? So that knocks down that franchise. Like we even talked about best franchises, and it's like you have this black mark of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it's okay, it's still Indiana Jones, but at the same time, it's not, right? And no one's ever gonna compare Crystal Skull to the other 3. But yeah, like 1 through 4, like there was no missteps in this franchise. So even
the second one, as much as I love Temple of Doom, the first one was like, oh my god, and then the second one, people were like, I don't know,
it had a different tone.
Yeah, because even like the people who loved the first one, who were like religious, then all of a sudden the second one came out, they're like, well, we're not going to let our kids watch this one. So there was a huge dip, and then the third one came out, and you're like, it's back, and this is like the best thing. And then the 4th one happened, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But you can't say that about John Wick. It's just like this trajectory that just keeps going up and up. And go and see this film. If you haven't seen all 4, go and see all of them right now. Binge it.
I would say Rocky 1 through 4 would be the similar, where it's just wow, okay, wow. Mr. T, wow, Drago. Like Rocky 1 through 4 would be probably the best comp, I would say.
That would be a good comp for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll wrap us up for this episode, Pete.
Yay.
Next week we will be reviewing Dungeons and Dragons, which will be out in theaters, starring Chris.
And we're going to review Paul Abdul's Rush video next week too.
Exactly.
in full detail.
Yeah. And also next week on Netflix will be Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston in Murder Mystery 2. So if you haven't seen the first one, make sure you catch up on that one and watch the second one.
Very fun.
Yeah, nice, fun films. And then also on Apple Plus TV Live will be Tetris with Taron Egerton. So we'll be reviewing those 3 films. And then other podcasts, we keep saying it, guys, and soon they will come out. But we got Home Alone and Shawshank Redemption. We'll eventually get done. So stay tuned. Those will be coming out in the spring of 2023. Spring 2023. So with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.